Breaking today, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are now demanding picture approval on everything the couple do. And it's for one reason and one reason only: Harry's paranoia over his bald spot. With Rob Shooter of Shooter Scoop reporting that Hollywood is now buzzing over the Sussex's no hair, no share rule. You have to laugh at this, you really do. Especially given Harry was the one who made such a big deal about Prince William's fading hairline in his autobiography Spare. Of course, I would argue that William is absolutely owning his looks in his 40s. He gives men like me in our 40s real inspiration, whereas Harry looks a total mess, clearly lacking in physical and personal confidence. But here is the scoop from Mr. Rob Shooter, who reveals that Meghan and Harry are now demanding final approval on every single photo taken of them. Insiders swear it's all because of his bald spot. Yes, his bald spot. One Hollywood insider telling him they're obsessed with image control. Every photographer, every magazine, every event, Meghan's team insists on approving shots before anything goes public. And it's not about artistic direction, it's about Harry's hair, or what little is left. Apparently, Harry's thinning crown has become a very touchy subject indeed inside Team Sussex. He'll joke about it with friends, but Meghan, oh no, not a laugh. She wants him to look strong, youthful, like the prince she married, not the one California Sunshine is slowly exposing. Sources say their reps have even gone head-to-head with event organisers and editors. One media insider whispered to me they'll approve 10 pictures and reject 100. If Harry's bald spot catches the light wrong, it's automatically a no. A royal source summed it up perfectly. They left palace life to be free, but now every photo has to be filtered. Meghan calls it brand protection. Honestly, at this point, the bald spot has more security than the crown jewels. Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, the problem that they've got is that you can do all of the picture approval in the world when it comes to official shots or shots from events that Harry is speaking at, but it doesn't stop the fact that Harry is someone who is pictured. Harry is someone who is subjected to paparazzi in California. So I don't really think the picture approval is going to solve the problem of his thinning crown. What do you make of this, Brittany?
Especially, I think this is absolutely hysterical, especially since we know that Harry sort of made fun of his brother in his book for his own thinning hairline. That now Harry is experiencing it is rather ironic and funny, and that Harry as well, like his he has a friar tuck effect. It's very prominent in the back, and
Yeah.
to me it looks like he's clinging on more desperately, which actually makes the entire situation even worse. And I'm not surprised, but the thing is, you take pictures of Harry and a lot of them, it's very apparent. And if he was self-conscious about it, hey, get hair plugs. He had years to do that and he didn't, and now this is the consequence. And he would be much better off actually just accepting his balding headline instead of hairline, instead of trying to mask it in pictures, because it ain't gonna work. But we know he has photoshopped, or somebody had photoshopped more hair on his head, probably on his behalf many a time. So Harry's definitely self-conscious about this, but if he wanted to change it, hey, go ahead and change it. But it's too late now, and he has to accept his sort of friar tuckness, you could say.
Indeed, and we're just looking at these pictures of William. And I think the contrast, Brittany, is really significant, is it not? Because there's a confidence to William in his 40s. It's very obvious that he knows who he is now. I have to say, Brittany, William and I are very similar ages, and I think I feel the same as William, actually. There's something in your 40s where you don't feel desperate to follow trends or anything like that. You know who you are, and I very much get that sense that William is in that place. Harry really has not embraced his age at all.
No, and what's interesting as well in the shooter report is that when it comes from Megan, who's kind of really obsessed with keeping, her prince looking young, William has a very confident, very self-assured relationship with Catherine as well. And she is not there obsessing over his looks. She loves him because of William. And William, I think, has a confidence in that. And he has a confidence in his role. And he's not there trying to be somebody he's not. He could have also gotten hair plugs if he wanted to, and he's like, it's fine. This is part of life. Embracing this is just going to be part of his reality. And I think it's quite smart of him to do and not be so self conscious of it. Whereas Harry is self conscious, he's obsessed, he is wildly insecure about it. And William comes across as a complete opposite and as a leader, whereas Harry is just sort of a follower and just not sure what to do in this particular situation. William, of course, has gone down the smarter path, I think, and just embraced life, and aging is just part of life.
It really is. It really is. And it's about how you age. And also there's a sort
Mhm.
of karma to Harry. It's like, I'm sorry, if you're going to hassle other people for being bald,
Mhm.
and if you're going to hassle your brother for losing his youthful looks, then actually we might start feeling the same about you, Harry. Now, what's interesting is that to kick off the year, Brittany, Harry and Meghan have actually been told to stay home. In bombshell new advice delivered by the top US media operative Paula Frolic in the Times newspaper, which is really interesting, actually. The Times newspaper, which obviously views itself as the newspaper of record here in the United Kingdom. And this open letter is designed to actually advise Harry and Meghan practically on how they can move on from their annus horribilis. And Paula Frolic says she's not a publicist for either, but this is the best advice they're going to get, and they don't even have to pay me. So, Brittany, let's go through this advice, and I'll get your take as we go.
Mm.
So, first to Meghan. She writes, I understand why it may be difficult to see your father, Thomas Markle, ever again, given how he has been trading your name for cash ever since you were engaged to Harry. However, in the spirit of graciousness, now that he is struggling with heart disease, has lost a leg due to complications from diabetes, and is struggling to pay for his care, you should do the right thing and cover his hospital bills. You made millions last year, and it would do wonders for your public image, which you say is based on kindness and compassion. As of now, a GoFundMe to pay for his bills asks for a mere $12,000, roughly the price of a Chanel dress you obtained after a shoot for the cut. Brittany, that first piece of advice, I think
Prince
it's
Harry
completely
is
spot
once
on.
again under intense public scrutiny, this time over reported concerns about his changing appearance, with new commentary suggesting the Duke is increasingly self-conscious about his thinning hairline. According to royal observers, Harry's discomfort has shown in recent appearances, interviews and photo moments, fueling discussion about how relentless media attention continues to affect him on a personal level. For a man who has long spoken about pressure, image and mental health, this latest focus highlights just how unforgiving royal life in the public eye can be. To unpack what's really being said and why this story has gained traction, Dan is joined by the Royal News Network, bringing deeper insight and context. Subscribe now for informed royal analysis that goes beyond the headlines.
This is just so easy. It's such an easy slam dunk for Harry and Meghan here to make at least somewhat amends. Maybe she says, well, I don't really want to have a relationship with him, but as an honorable daughter, I will pay for his hospital bills. I mean, he's in the Philippines. They can't be an outrageous amount. And she has millions of dollars. She should be able to do this. But Meghan just doesn't really care. Again, we have seen this endlessly. She is perfectly willing to throw people away once it's convenient. And that's just a bad reputation to have. This would be such an easy, positive fix for her. And I would argue as well, mending the relationships with the royal family would help her public reputation too. But this is definitely just paying for her father's hospital bills. She doesn't even have to talk to him, just pay for them and just let it rest. That might be actually hugely helpful for her because right now she looks sort of heartless and cruel.
She does indeed. But I think she doesn't just look that way. I think she is that way, which is why it's quite interesting because do we really want PR to make someone look better than they actually are? But anyway, Paula Frolic goes on, which brings me to another point, Meghan. Stop taking freebies. It might be okay in the world of the D-list, but to the rest of us, it just looks tacky because we know you can afford to pay. You've already been labelled a grifter by your former boss at Spotify. Let's not give anyone any more reason to pour gasoline on that fire, shall we? But the thing is, Brittany, she is a grifter. She is obsessed with freebies. She always has been. It drives her.
It does. She has always been D-list status, Stan. That has always been her mindset. It has never changed. And that's part of her problem, is that she never evolved. She's still stuck in that D-list mindset. And yeah, getting a freebie every once in a while, I mean, we all enjoy that. But I think it looks sort of tacky for her to seemingly demand or want every single outfit that she wears in a photo shoot. I feel like that's very excessive. We don't really see most celebrities do that. They understand, hey, I'm wearing this once and then I give it back. That's fine. And they go and buy their own thing. But Meghan just never has wanted to do that. She should just stop taking the freebies and actually, start to work, stop grifting and actually work for a living, because that's not really what Meghan is doing. And that again is huge part of her problem back in 2025. And I think even now and probably into the future as well. This is sound advice.
Paula goes on, what else? Yes, stop giving us glimpses of your children on social media. You should be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And while your son and daughter might be the only 2 things you have left that Americans actually care about, teasing us with blurred photos of them makes you look like a terrible hypocrite, especially after you moved 5,000 miles away from Harry's hometown for privacy. And Brittany, we know that. We know that's what Harry wants. But she's never going to stop doing it, Brittany, because it is all she's got. And she covets what the Kardashians have. She covets what the Beckhams have. And unfortunately, despite all of Harry's public posturing, arguably the only way for the Sussex brand to renew is to use the children. So I think this is great advice from Paula Frolic. Do I think she's going to take it up? Absolutely not.
No, and she knows that the kids are the last card she has to play in many ways. I've always suspected that when things were at their worst, that's when she's going to start pulling out the kids quite a bit more. I would imagine this year, because 2025 ended in such a mess, that we'll probably get full-headed picture shots of the kids this year, because this was never really what Meghan Markle wanted. She only really wants control over the situation, not really to actually protect her kids' privacy. Because if she really wanted to protect their privacy, hey, don't post really anything about them. A lot of celebrities do that. They don't post about their kids. They don't really even talk about their kids much because they respect their privacy. Meghan is constantly talking about the kids, especially Lily. Everything she does is for Lily's sake. And it also, I always think as well, poor Archie, because he just doesn't seem to matter to her quite as much. But looking at this whole thing together, I think the teasing of the kids, I think most people just find it obnoxious. And if Harry and Meghan seemingly, as I said in the folding of Archwell Foundation, they want their kids to be more a part of everything, they're going to start pulling out the kids a lot more to gain that public sympathy. And it's just a cheap ploy. And I just don't think it'll really work, because unfortunately, for them at least, I don't think people care that much really about their kids.
Paula Frolic then moved on to Harry. Poor misunderstood Harry, she said, I think with tongue firmly in cheek. Here's my advice to you. Next year, when your father and brother make state visits to the US, lie low. As in, no social media posts, no interviews, and above all, no competing engagements. I know this will be hard for you, but trust me, you and your wife look petty and spiteful when you try to hijack the attention. Who can forget your flashy Remembrance Day visit to Canada in November at the same time your brother was trying to promote his Earthshot Prize in Brazil? Getting in the way of actual royals trying to maintain the family business, which includes diplomatic duties, makes you look vengeful and jealous. And Brittany, I think this is great advice, but he's never taken that advice. Even after that promise, right, at the meeting organised by Meredith Maines, now departed with Tobin Andre, communications director at Buckingham Palace, one of the key courtiers for King Charles, even at that meeting where there was this promise that we're going to start sharing diaries, Harry decided to screw over his brother. So I just don't think this is something that Harry will be able to do. I don't think he can ever sit back and let the royal family get the right attention that they deserve. So again, good advice, but nothing from the past 6 years suggests that he will ever stop competing with his brother.
With the Royal News Network, we explore why stories like this resonate so widely. Is it simple curiosity, or a reflection of how Harry's public image has shifted since stepping away from royal duties? Observers argue this moment speaks to something larger. The contrast between Harry's desire for privacy and the unavoidable spotlight that follows him. In the modern monarchy, even the smallest personal detail can become a talking point, whether welcome or not. The bigger question now is whether Harry can ever truly control his narrative, or whether public perception will continue to define him. Watch to the end for the full discussion and expert insight. Share your thoughts in the comments. Fair discussion or unfair focus? Like if you value thoughtful royal commentary, subscribe for daily royal news, context, and debate.
Harry just has this massive inferiority complex and just a massive chip on his shoulder because, Dan, that advice is so good. And it's so obvious because even Harry this year, he's like, well, I wasn't trying to compete with my brother. Like, how dare you even suspect that? And it's like, but you do this all the time. Like, we are recognizing something. It's like, you're not being very clever here, Harry. None of us are stupid. Although I think Harry and Meghan think most of the public is stupid. And he went down that path. And it's like, that's just not a good thing to put out there. And it's just so easy when your family is going to be out doing something, tripping the color, what have you. Just stay home. Don't do anything. Don't post anything. Because it does make him look petty and vengeful and spiteful and all these sorts of things. It does put a negative spin on even what Harry believes are positive engagements for himself. It puts a negative spin on it because he looks like he's trying to compete. And the reality is he can't totally compete. And he would be on so much better footing with the public if he just let the family be the family and do his own thing without any trying to avoid obviously clashing, but at the same time, just doing things for himself. But Harry and Meghan just set up this lose-lose scenario for themselves where they're always trying to compete. They're always trying to reach for this kind of cosplay working royal role that they always wanted to have and were denied. And unfortunately for them, I think it's playing completely wrong and they need to move on from this shtick, but I just don't think Harry can.
No, he can't, because the next piece of advice is something he should have moved on from long ago. Paula Frolic writes, enough with the lawsuits. Trust me. The British press get it by now. You're not to be trifled with, but even the judge in your case against the Daily Mail said that resolving your allegations had become extremely complex and an involved sideshow, and noted the costs and resources that would be devoted to resolving the factual dispute would, I am satisfied, be out of all proportion to any possible evidential value. But Brittany, he is pushing ahead with this case against the Daily Mail, totally motivated by vengeance. And I think this will be the final nail in his credibility coffin.
I mean, Dan, if he loses this case, he's going to be out potentially millions upon millions of pounds, especially if he's sort of the sole man left standing from the defense side. All of this is just a fool's errand. He's going on and going to litigate things that were sort of resolved years ago and are not really even an issue anymore, because the perspective Harry should have is, how can this case change things now? Well, I think the answer is it won't change anything. There's just no point to it. All the actors have changed, the methodologies for the media has changed, and there has been a change of attitude in the media since the early 2000s. And so Harry just needs to move on, but he's obsessed with the past. And again, this is why I think Harry lives so much in the land of delusion, is that he's hoping if he wins one of these cases, he's hoping if he gets his security back, that his life will be better and somehow fixed. And that just isn't going to be the case. Unfortunately for Harry, I think he picked the wrong spouse, and most of his troubles have come from that. Be careful who you marry, and you might avoid some of these catastrophic problems. But I think Harry needs to have some real consequences. And I think if he lost this case, I think that would be, a great way to actually for Harry to realize, oh, some of this is just really not working for me. But he's just going to keep continuing, I think. Because again, until other aspects of his life are fixed, he's just not going to stop.
And then Paula moved on to advice to the couple, to both Harry and Meghan. And she writes, instead of just showing up to collect Humanitarian of the Year awards, try doing actual humanitarian work. Real humanitarians don't just helicopter in for disasters or holidays. They work tirelessly every day to make a situation better. Take the example of one company in your portfolio, Travelist, which has no clear message beyond making travel greener. Instead, I would suggest you recalibrate it to work with countries that want and need responsible tourism to bolster their economies and stabilize their political situation. Pick one or two countries like Gambia, Malaysia, or Uzbekistan, all of which are desperate for tourists, have historical or natural significance, and need a financial boost, and go from there. Meanwhile, enough with the pointless semi-royal junkets to countries like Colombia and Nigeria, where you may get royal treatment like you used to, but it just makes you look desperate. Such good advice, Brittany, because this is the problem with the humanitarian work, and we've seen it with the collapse of Archewell. Because it is so once over lightly, so focused on PR opportunities for Harry and Meghan, people aren't even prepared to donate. And they have the time. At the moment, Brittany, according to their filings, they work about 1 hour a week for Archewell. That's why it has failed. There is so much they could do if they were true humanitarians. But again, what I would argue is that they're not. They never will be. So this advice will not be followed because they don't want to work hard for other people. They only want to work moderately hard in order to make big bucks for themselves.
They do. And when it comes to those trips to Nigeria and Colombia, I mean, they were basically sort of vacations. Like there was no real point. They didn't really donate anything. They didn't really help the country in any tangible way. And they still want to do more of this nonsense in 2026. And the reality is, they're not humanitarians. They are just celebrities desperately in search of a willing audience to listen to Meghan's platitudes. That's what Meghan wants, is to talk at an audience. She doesn't want to actually help people. She only is interested, I think, in helping herself. I think Harry has maybe a smidge more of that humanitarian gene, but he's also lost Sentebale, and he's had his own disasters with African parks and other things. And so this couple is not a humanitarian couple. They don't really care, I think, about others in any tangible way. I mean, with the folding of Archewell Foundation and the Parents Network, they paraded these parents who had the immense grief of losing a child on CBS, only to drop them a year later as if they didn't really care at all. Harry and Meghan only care about themselves, and that's why Archewell Foundation has failed, and that's why I just don't think there's really any future for them as humanitarians, because they made it clear they're not. They just want the applause from the audience, and that's it. And unfortunately for them, it's a much dwindling audience, and I just don't know how many countries are willing to host them for really no particular reason other than for Harry and Meghan to grab a couple of headlines.
And then finally, the last piece of advice from Paula Frolic is this: stay home. Even if you are invited to the Met Gala, 2026 should be a nesting year. So nest. The American public is worn out by your product drops and your 5-year-old complaints about family and your insistence that you're authentic and desperate for privacy when nothing could be further from the truth. In short, stay home, regroup, attempt to do some actual prolonged good, and start listening to the people, be they PR, film, or charity professionals, or even average working people who don't live within the rarefied compounds of Montecito. Do it for yourselves, your children, and honestly, all of America. We're tired of your constant chasing for clout and we need a rest. Don't we all, Brittany? Don't we all?
Oh man, this was so good. And it's so true. Harry and Meghan, not only do they need to stay home, they just sort of need to shut up, especially Meghan. She is now regurgitating like the same five stories, and she's even elaborating on the dish soap story because now it happened during the riots in Los Angeles in the mid 90s. And so this comes from the fact that there is just nothing deeper to them. And they might actually have something to share and something to accomplish, and as ever, might have been a greater success if it wasn't so incredibly rushed. They need to actually go home, regroup, rethink, and re-strategize. But unfortunately, I think one of the bigger things that obviously the author mentioned is that they aren't taking advice from people. They should be, and they aren't. Meghan thinks that she's smarter than them, that she understands things better. And I think the last 5 years have proven that that is actually not the case. Listen to the professionals. Don't jump on a jet to France when you say how much you want to be there for your kids every day. Jump on a jet to France just to walk a Balenciaga show after their terrible sort of campaign with children. I mean, it's just obviously such a PR mess. They step into obvious disasters every day. It's why Meredith Main's left. You can't control somebody who just has no self-control. And Meghan doesn't have any, Harry doesn't have any. And really, I truly believe, Dan, Harry and Meghan could have been wildly successful in the States if they had played their cards right. But they were too anxious. They had no strategy. And unfortunately for them, I don't think either of them have much talent either. And so they've ended up in this absolute mess. And I think if they had listened to a lot of the professionals they hired and who then quit along the way, they'd be in a much better spot than they are now. But will they be quiet in 2026? They've been somewhat quiet recently, but I highly, highly doubt it. We'll get more interviews. We'll get more sly digs at the royal family because they can't help themselves.
Of course. And remember, the reason that we keep them honest is because they want to destroy the British monarchy. I wish people would remember this, Brittany. That's why people like you, people like me, are so determined to hold them to account. Because the royal family is in a tough place in a lot of ways. And these two still want to destroy it. And they want to destroy it on lies. And that cannot be allowed to happen. And I do not think they are anywhere near finished in their mission. I think they'll fail, but I think that's why they absolutely have to be kept honest. But brilliant to have you back in 2026. Brittany, editor of RNN, the Royal News Network. You can